Welcome back everybody, my name's Nick930, and today I wanted to share the top 10 things I want to see in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Number 10, a less cinematic approach. Now there's nothing wrong with the cinematics in the last few games, it's actually done really well, but I think the tone of the series has shifted a bit too much into trying to emulate something along the lines of Uncharted, and the fast-paced gameplay of these newer Tomb Raiders just doesn't lend itself to the serious tone it's going for. I think if Shadow of the Tomb Raider focused less on the cinematic cutscenes and more on the actual gameplay, it might end up being a more memorable experience. Number 9, more difficult platforming. Again, the newer Tomb Raiders have borrowed a ton of elements from Uncharted, including the way its climbing mechanics work, and this is honestly for the better, as the newer design works and plays so much better than the old games. But I do wish we had more challenging jumps in the game's world. I want huge cliff sides and ruins to climb, where one wrong step could send you to your death. But a lot of the newer games feature more stretched out open world designs, with structures that seem to only go up about 3 stories. It gives a more realistic appearance, but it's just not as much fun to climb. Number 8, dual pistols. This one drives me nuts, especially considering the build-up they had in the 2013 reboot, where Lara finally gets her dual pistols at the very end of the game. Why did they give her only one pistol in Rise of the Tomb Raider? I really hope that they finally give Lara her signature dual pistols in the new game, as that's one of the most iconic parts of Tomb Raider to me. Number 7, less friends. This kind of goes with the less cinematic point that I was making earlier. I think Tomb Raider is at its best when there's more of a focus on isolation. Lara Croft needs to be completely alone and isolated in these worlds, and having a whole cast of allies and friendly militias just ruins that. Tomb Raider 2013 was okay because you were running around on an island trying to find a few of your friends, but Rise of the Tomb Raider had it so you were essentially part of some mountain community helping them with their war. I hope Shadow of the Tomb Raider just has Lara traveling by herself in these Mayan temples, with no band of friends or local militants to assist. But knowing this series lately, it's likely Lara's going to end up befriending some of the natives or something. Number 6, more linear design. This may seem like an odd choice, but I think this is probably for the better. Tomb Raider has some great linear segments and set pieces, and the focus is perfect in the early and late segments of the games. But in the middle, there's a lot of boring open-world exploration that doesn't involve difficult platforming, but rather just running around trying to figure out what gadget opens which door. It just doesn't fit the tone of the series well, and I think it would be better if the game went for a far more linear design to its level structures. Just look at Rise of the Tomb Raider. The opening mission in the Prophet's Tomb had great platforming segments, set pieces, and was focused really well. But then you get to the Geothermal Valley, and it becomes a big confusing mess of side quests and exploring random tree platforms. Keep areas more open-ended for the sake of exploration, but keep the format more linear so you don't end up wasting hours searching for dumb collectibles. Number 5, underwater segments. Now, Rise of the Tomb Raider thankfully added in the much-needed underwater gameplay that was desperately needed in 2013's reboot of Tomb Raider, but it still wasn't all that involved. I hope Shadow of the Tomb Raider brings back even more difficult underwater segments that require you to time your breath carefully and complete various puzzles and challenges, like the old Tomb Raiders. Number 4, more traps. Tomb Raider games have struggled with this for a very long time now, and it's one of the core elements of the series. Tomb Raider needs to have traps, a ton of traps, and there needs to be variety to them. Rise of the Tomb Raider tried to add in a few, but they were painfully obvious and way too easy to avoid. In fact, each time you activated a trap, you had time to disable it in slow motion before it killed you. Bring back the traps that would light Lara on fire, bring back all the spike pits and rolling boulders that made the series great to begin with. Number 3, more hostile animals. When they made Tomb Raider Anniversary, they acknowledged that the original game was so good because it had more of a focus on the animal enemies rather than the human enemies. In fact, the first Tomb Raider had only 3 or 4 human enemies to fight. The rest were a bunch of animals like bats, wolves, bears, lions, and gorillas. The new Tomb Raiders, however, are just filled with way too many human enemies, and maybe one bear guarding a tomb entrance here and there. This needs to change drastically, and with a more tropical setting like in the new Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I seriously hope they add in more hostile wildlife like panthers, snakes, and whatever else they can think of. Number 2, the original theme song. One of the most iconic video game soundtracks of all time is noticeably absent in the newest series of Tomb Raider games, and instead we get a sort of homage to the classic theme in a brand new, less memorable theme. I get that Crystal Dynamics is trying to set this up as a prequel trilogy, and their end goal would be linking this to the original series of games to some extent, but I really hope that this Shadow of the Tomb Raider game finally delivers the classic theme song. Even if they only have it play at the very climax of the game to show that she is officially the Tomb Raider we all know and love, just stop teasing us and give us that oboe solo already. And number 1, more tombs. This is the most important thing that needs to be added to Tomb Raider, and something everyone keeps requesting but it never seems to happen. We need more tombs in this game. More optional tombs, more tombs just built into the main storyline. Stop putting us into these encampments with a bunch of enemy militia. Give us more time inside dark, empty tombs with tons of puzzles, traps, and creatures to fight. The more time spent fighting in the woods with soldiers, the less time the game has to commit to its main selling point. And those are the top 10 things I'd like to see in the next Tomb Raider. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is probably close to being finished at this point, so it's unlikely any of these changes will be incorporated. But as a longtime fan, I thought I'd express what I'd like to see in the future of this franchise, and I'm hopeful we'll eventually see the series return to what it originally was intended to be from the get-go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe for more videos posted every week.